This lesson is going to discuss pollen evidence. To start with, we'll look at the do now that you had on the pollen vocabulary. Number 1 across, an asexual reproductive structure that can develop into an adult found in certain protists, plants, and fungi is called a spore. 4 across, the male reproductive part of the flower is called the stamen. 10 across, the study of pollen and spore evidence in relation to solving criminal cases, and the key there is criminal cases. We're talking about forensic palynology. And number 12 across, the outer layer or wall of a pollen grain or spore is called the exine. Number 2 down, the number and type of pollen grains found in a geographic area at a particular time of year is called the pollen fingerprint, and this is used to help also with determining time of death. The transfer of pollen from one plant to another plant, 3 down, is going to be cross-pollination. Number 5, a flowering plant that produces seeds within a fruit is called an angiosperm. Number 6 down, the study of pollen and spore evidence is simply palynology. 7, the transfer of pollen from the male reproductive parts to the female reproductive parts, and remember that plants do reproduce sexually with pollen being the sperm cell, is going to be called pollination. Number 8 down, a vector that functions to move pollen from one plant to another is going to be an insect, like a bumblebee, and that's called a pollinator. Number 9 down, a reproductive structure that contains the male gametes of seed plants is the pollen grain, and 11 down, the female part of the flower is called the pistil. If we look at the structure of a fruit, such as this avocado, the fruit is actually the ovary of the plant, and this seed is called the ovule. And the structure of the flower goes as follows. The stem is divided into the receptacle, which is basically where the ovary is located, which is this round structure, and the ovules, the seeds, is located inside, and the pedicle is this part of the stem here. The sepals are the small leaves around the receptacle, and our petals are what we like to look at, which are pretty. The style and the stigma will form the pollen tube, where the pollen will actually be deposited on the flower, and then it travels down to the ovule. The anther, the male part of the plant, is going to hold the pollen up here. If we look at pollen under a microscope, this is what it looks like. This is astrolily pollen, and the outer layer of it is called the exine. You can see that it has, kind of an ovular shape, but if we compare it to tiger lily pollen, we can see that it is still oval in shape, but it looks very different. It's narrower, it has these like scaly patterns on it, and that's true of all pollen. Each species of flower is going to have its own type of pollen, so it's easy to identify. And then we can look at spore evidence. This would be spores from a mushroom, and you can see they're much smaller than the pollen grains. This is under the same power on the microscope as the pollen, and very small, and you'll find them clumped together.